Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of FSM After Dark. I am Richie Lupo here with Kalani Lua. I was trying to figure out how to get that off the screen. I don't even know why that was on there. Sorry. But, so in the spirit of what is today? It is Wednesday, or Tuesday, I'm sorry. Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. It's actually, you laugh, bro. This is the first time in probably since I've moved out here. I think I moved here in April. This is the first time I haven't had tacos on Taco Tuesday. Dead serious.
You know, it's hard because, as you can tell, I'm pretty familiar with what days go with what food. It's also Popeye's Tuesday as well. So it's a tough decision to make, buddy.
It's like when they tried doing Throwback Thursday and Flashback Friday and Back to the Future Wednesday.
Yeah, it's like, okay, wait a minute. Now, there's too many days to try to remember.
Well, so in the spirit of today being Tuesday, I'd like to jump into baseball because there was actually a lot of really crazy stuff that happened. 3 of the series, home teams lost their series. So home field advantage, and you start off losing the game. Funny enough, I really, really wish Joe was in here because he'd get a kick out of this. So I'm just hoping that Joe is watching because.
Well, Joe would be able to be here because he would be able to come on and say, "Well, it's because I was talking to some of the groundskeepers, and they were telling me that they just didn't get a good vibe from the home team system." So, yeah,
at the Twins Park.
yeah, they just didn't get a good feel.
So, here's the funny part, because now I'm pretty sure our audience is starting to learn about all of our different quirks. The fact that you hate Michael Jordan, I've root for every team.
I don't hate Michael Jordan.
I'm busting balls. I root for every team in North America.
Every team east of Texas you root for. You root for Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Syracuse, Boston College.
So we also know about my little when somebody's pitching very well and I put the game on. So today, Lucas Giolito in the White Sox games, who, when we were initially doing the franchise of the show for the baseball thing that me and Joe were doing, I called the White Sox and the Reds as sleeper teams and also put the Padres in there as some teams that could be surprise teams. Well, the White Sox played today. They did very well. Lucas Giolito was phenomenal. Retired 18 of the A's batters. Unbelievable. So I come home from work and put the White Sox game on. And I put the game on, and it's in the 7th inning. Well, I don't know if you caught this game, but Lucas Giolito was pitching a perfect game going into the 7th inning. The second.
I think I know where this is going.
The second I put the game on, this poor bastard gets a hit. I felt so bad for him. But anyway, he wound up going through. Had a phenomenal game. A couple of the guys launched balls. Abreu with a homer. Adam Engel with a homer. They looked like a strong team. Once again, taking down a Oakland A's team in Oakland. And then you go to oh my God, I'm so sorry. The Twins and Houston. Greinke throwing a good game. Twins look like they got it. Polanco has an error in I believe it was the 7th, and then Houston comes back to win that damn game. Which, if you see what I'm wearing, I'm not a fan of Houston. And then the last game of the night, the Yankees, was absolutely unbelievable. What did you get to catch today?
I'm catching the highlights right now on SportsCenter, man. For those who may not be aware, I help coach youth football out here in Las Vegas. So you had work on top of going to practice and then getting home. I don't necessarily always get to catch in. Now, I do get my phone, so I will time in from time to time to check it out. I did see what the White Sox pitcher was doing as the game was going on. Sometimes just like we talk about in any other sport, you get in the zone and you just get things going and it's red hot. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to last as long as obviously he would have liked. It was a shot up the middle, right underneath his leg. Shortstop couldn't get to it in time. And I'm saying that like I watched it. I'm watching highlights right now, so that's how I'm able to call it. But in all seriousness, it is one of those where the White Sox, with everything that's going on with this bubble that teams are in, and no fans, the White Sox kind of were one of those few teams didn't get a lot of press. A lot of people weren't talking about them. They weren't mentioning them going into it like, hey, this is a team to watch out for. Anything can happen once you reach the postseason. So it's only one game, so I'm not going to call it. But yeah, and it's only one game, so I'm not going to call it. But if the White Sox might be that team that just says, hey, it's us against everybody else, and they got a favorable matchup against the A's. I love my Bay Area team, but the A's are known to have good regular seasons, decent postseason runs. But eventually, they're just not going to be able to get over that hump. Is that hump going to come sooner rather than later? We'll see. But it was a good showing by the White Sox nonetheless. We'll see how Game 2 works out.
I'm hoping they come out and ball. I want to see the White Sox go. And funny enough, something Alex Rodriguez said on the broadcast tonight on the Yankee game about scary teams. And this is something I brought up a while ago about Miami Marlins, how everybody jumped down Derek Jeter's throat when he traded all these guys away, pulled the haul back in, and then has a playoff team right now. A-Rod said that's one of his picks of a team to make a run. And here's the reason why. You look at teams like Cincinnati, you look at teams like Chicago, the White Sox, the San Diego Padres, the Miami Marlins. They all got one thing in common, or multiple things in common. One, they're not supposed to be there. Two, they were all really young. Three, they got nothing to lose. So these teams are going to come out. They're young teams. They're kids. They're going to come out and play. They're not going to get in their own heads about hitting and pitching and all this other stuff. And they're going to do their stuff. Now, granted, they might not go all the way because when it comes down to postseason play, we all know what pitching and, being able to hit in the right situations and eating pitches and hitting the right ones and all that and how it plays into the game. So I'm really curious to see if it is one of these fun teams, one of these young teams with some swagger and attitude, or if it's the teams that everybody was calling in the beginning, like the Yankees and the Dodgers, which they're another team I'm excited to see play tomorrow and see how that goes down. But the Yankees tonight, they came out and absolutely obliterated the man that just took the Triple Crown this year in pitching in Shane Bieber. I mean, this guy was he was the most dominant pitcher in baseball this year. And Aaron Judge, second inning, first pitch, blast one out of the park, 2-0 game. They wound up finishing that game 12-3. Stanton had a homer, Torres had a homer. These guys, Brett Gardner had a homer, Judge had a homer. These guys went and just bashed around. But you look at it this way. This is the best pitcher in the AL versus the batting title champion in LeMahieu and the home run champion Luke Voigt. So you had fire versus fire, you know what I mean? And it was who came out on top. And the Yankees were on a slump anyway these last few games. So to see them come out and fire on all cylinders tonight was really, really cool. And that's why I gotta be repping, because I'm just excited to see them playing well, because I was shitting my pants for our $500 million man almost to go out on the mound and maybe lose to the best pitcher this year in baseball. But that wasn't the case. Garrett Cole was phenomenal. 13 strikeouts and did nothing no man has ever done in the postseason. 13 Ks with 0 walks.
Well, that's one thing, like you were mentioning with the Yankees, is that with their struggles, with what they have at bat, you knew eventually they were going to turn the corner. It was just a matter of when and will they come at a time where they're not so far in the hole. this was game one. So they really showed up at the right time. Will it continue? We shall see. But they got the hitting power where if they start getting in their groove, start feeling themselves, and start getting into a rhythm, it is going to be a long series for some pitchers out there. So it'll be interesting to see how that particularly goes. They certainly have the talent. And then, like you said, you also look at the pitching staff as well. If they can hold up their end of the bargain, close out games, not give up, not put their team in such a hole early on that they have to climb out of it. The Yankees certainly, if healthy, because that's another thing that they've struggled with as well during this shortened season. If they can stay healthy, pitching staff can hold up their end, and the bats are starting to fill their swings. Bombs away, brother. Bombs away. So look, it is just game one. And as we see in every sport that has a series, you can't judge it just off the first game. It'll be interesting to see how game two is, how Minnesota bounces back, and how the Yankees respond to that, because Minnesota's going to try to make some adjustments and say,
Cleveland.
Yeah. Oh, no, excuse me. I'm thinking.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of games on today.
Exactly. So please forgive me. But Cleveland's going to try to come out there. They're going to go home. They're going to watch Major League. They're going to watch Wild Thing. They're going to watch Willie Mays Hayes. Okay. They're going to go ahead. They're going to drink some of Joe Boo's rum, and they're going to go ahead and see what they could do as far as bouncing back. So it'll be interesting to see, can the Yankees hold off the Indians, or can Cleveland make a respond back and throw a haymaker back of their own and tie this up. So the home team, real quick, I'm not trying to be too long-winded here.
No, you're good.
The home teams, given that there's no fans here, yes, you are on the road. Yes, there is traveling involved. But without having the crowds there, it really does take away the advantage you probably would have from it being a home game as opposed to it being like it is now. So despite it being on the road, I really don't see an advantage for the home teams or a disadvantage for the road teams when these are going on, simply because there's nobody out there to egg anybody on, whether it's motivating or not. So to me, I don't think it's relevant.
And I think we've seen that actually, and I'll agree with you big time on that. We've seen that across all sports with officiating.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see the officials being swayed with a home game or a this or that or a rowdy arena or worried about getting beat up in the parking lot trying to get on a plane.
Yeah.
But why I'm getting at that is tonight, the guy that actually called the Yankee game, and why I bring this up is not just because it's the Yankee game, because I actually thought it was weird. The umpire was 6'7", right? At first, I thought, man, that's crazy. Normally, umpires are not shorter, but a lot shorter than 6'7".
Yeah, they're shorter than 6'7". That's for sure.
So, this guy tonight, when they originally said it in the first inning, I'm like, oh god, this is gonna be a long game. This is gonna be weird. This guy called the tightest strike zone I think I've ever seen in a professional baseball game. I'm not kidding you. Watch the whole game, both sides. And I'm a guy that, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's one or two he run cats up on that were, a little outside. But, I mean, for the majority of 200 and something, 300 pitches thrown in a game, shit. Missed 2 or 3 up.
That's not bad.
There's guys calling them like, if my screen's the strike zone, they're calling it like over there or over there. And they're like, yeah, it's a strike.
Yeah.
But no,
he was intensely trying to walk me. What do you mean that's a strike?
threw it in the other dugout. Strike. Just a bit outside. That's something we got to put up there on the poll one day is, do I add a signed Charlie Sheen Wild Thing jersey or a Joe Boo doll to the room?
Oh, man. Hey, man, you know what? If you can, do one at a time and do both.
You laugh, though. No, that is one of my favorite movies. I always wanted the Charlie Sheen.
Oh, that's a hilarious movie, man. I love that movie.
I love that movie. But funny enough, the A's, them with their game, Houston, who I don't think should even be allowed in the playoffs, but just goes to show you how karma's a bitch and They lost Justin Verlander to Tommy John, which, I mean, I'm not joking about that. I feel terrible for Verlander. That's a terrible injury and all that, but good for the Astros. But so really, yeah, just to get back on that, I think that these teams that we saw today taking all these games in other home parks, and then eventually the next 2 series in the World Series are going to move to San Diego, Texas, Houston, LA, and then the World Series will be played in the new Ranger Stadium. So my question to you is, do you think we see more of the same tomorrow?
Well, I'll tell you what we will be seeing tomorrow. Game 1 of the NBA Finals. I'm sorry, Major League Baseball. I really am. But you taking a third seat behind LeBron, the Lakers, Jimmy Butler, and the Heat. I'm sorry. But there's nothing else on TV besides the finals.
There's nothing else on TV. The Dodgers are kind of playing tomorrow too, man.
First off, you talking to the wrong guy if you want to bring up the Dodgers. Okay, I got to look up who the hell on a doggone team. I don't care.
Who are you a fan of in baseball? I don't think I've ever actually asked you that question. Well, you're Bay Area guy, not San Fran, not the Giants. No, no ponies in this race.
None whatsoever, man. None whatsoever.
Yeah, but that's got to make baseball more fun to watch, though, because you could just appreciate all the talent.
My favorite players was Barry Bonds and Ken Griffey Jr. Those are my 2 favorite players. Once they weren't, and Alfonso Soriano. Love me, Alfonso Soriano. Pedro Martinez. Those are my 4 favorite players. Those are only 4.
I was one. He was up there.
Don't get me wrong. I liked other players, but those 4, if they were on TV, I'm watching those games. But once those guys were no longer playing, I really just kind of watched baseball just to watch it. I didn't have a rooting interest. Even when the Giants won the World Series, I was happy. I didn't go out. I only got 1 Giant shirt, and I've had that before they won the World Series. So I don't really have a dog in the race. I do have a in-law. I have a family member through marriage, kind of, on the Oakland A's, but I've never met him, so I don't go around, trying to rep it. But yeah, I just appreciate the games and whatnot. But don't try to deter me away, Richie, because tomorrow we will see the quest for 4. We will see the Miami Heat, the Lakers, intertwine. The first time that I can recall that a player, star player, really any player, but a star player especially, is going to play his former team that he won a championship with in the NBA Finals. This is going to be a good one.
I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, man. As much as I want to see LeBron go on his run for another championship, because he's got all the other accolades. We all know that. You could just look. The stats are there. NBA.com, go to the numbers, regular season, playoff. He owns all those stats. He's got those. So it's the chase for the ring at this point. But I'm being dead honest about this. This is my LeBron hate. I've always loved Jimmy Butler because when he played with Derrick Rose and Joakim with the Bulls and that run they went on when Derrick hit that crazy shot against Cleveland. I'll never forget. I remember screaming that. And I almost fell off the catwalk at my parents' house. I was flipping out. But I really want to see Jimmy Butler win a championship for one reason. Well, a couple of reasons. One, I love the way the guy plays. He's a dog. We talked about that. Not the most athletic, not the fastest, not the best shooter, all that other stuff. Just hardest working guy on the court. But another reason, I think the dude deserves it to shut all the haters up that talk shit when he was in Philly, when he was in Minnesota, and how he was the problem, and he was this, and they tried to make him out to this, I'm not hating on him either, but this Odell Beckham type character. And writing starting to show on the wall, isn't it? Maybe these other teams didn't know what the hell they were doing because Minnesota hasn't been in the playoffs. And I'm pretty sure they've gone through a couple head coaches. Philly, the same thing, and they've traded more players and signed people and done all this stuff, and they can't do nothing. So I think Jimmy Butler was right. Because who's on that team carrying Jimmy? Nobody. It's a bunch of kids there, and they're all playing basketball.
No, I'm with you, man. It just goes to show that the importance of finding the right team that fits your attitude, your makeup, your style of play. It's so valuable. Rich, you've seen it as a Yankees fan. Not every high-priced free agent that comes to New York can handle being a Yankee.
Hell no, those pinstripes are heavy. You ever go to the dentist and they put that X-ray vest on? It's like wearing 2 of those X-ray vests at the dentist.
Yeah, it's tough, man. So it's the same thing with any other sport. Some organizations are just not built, and some players aren't built to be a part of every organization. And Jimmy Butler having a Kobe Bryant, LeBron, Michael Jordan, Magic type of mentality, even though he doesn't have necessarily the skill set and the game to be in that same category as those players, he is one of the best two-way players in the NBA. But he has that mindset of, no, this is how we have to do it. This is how we have to go about things. But when you're not a part of an organization like that, it's a saying, and I hope I say this right. A pack of wolves led by sheep is worse than a pack of sheep led by a wolf. So, Jimmy Butler, unfortunately, was a wolf that was being led by sheep. And Minnesota and Philly, look where they've been. For Philly, they've made the playoffs, but look what's happened to them. Now, I'm not saying Jimmy Butler would have fixed all that, but they have some deep-rooted issues that they need to fix if they want to take that next step forward. Minnesota, ever since Kevin Garnett left, they've been a laughingstock of the NBA. So the fact that you guys want to put it on one guy, it just goes to show the continued enablement that you are doing among the young players who are still there that can't figure it out, why they probably, unless they end up somewhere later in their careers, probably would never reach the milestone that their talent would afford them to, because you guys are enabling them to be coddled, babied, and not push them to a higher standard. But if you talking about go ahead, Rich, because I was long-winded on that one. Go ahead.
No, you're good. 2 things I want to throw in there really quick because I'll forget. I got terrible memory. It's like a squirrel. One, I was one of those people when Jimmy went to Miami that I was like, hell yeah, I think it's cool that he's going to Miami, but do you really think you're going to win a chip there soon? Like, it's going to take a little bit. I was wrong. Which I think a lot of other people obviously were probably wrong.
There was a lot of people who felt that he only went to Miami because, he doesn't want to win. He just wants to be the guy. He's all about him. He's selfish. See, what they were saying in these other stops were true. No. If nothing else, I don't know why people felt this way. If Pat Riley is part of the organization, damn well he ain't about to bring in no selfish me player. He ain't about to bring in somebody who's only about his own stats. That ain't Pat Riley. That's just like Belichick, Coach K, coaches like that. They're not built to have someone who's only about themselves. Yeah, I'll bring somebody in who could do those things, but I ain't bringing nobody in who's just looking at the stat sheet and not the win column. So knowing that Pat Riley brought him in, we should have been more hip to, let's see. Now, granted, I don't think nobody outside of Pat Riley, even Pat Riley may not have thought that they were going to make a finals run this year, but here we are. Now, granted, there is somebody not wearing a Yankees outfit that did say on another podcast that their surprise team, if they had to pick one, would be the Miami Heat. Because how you pick, hey, who do you think is going to make the finals? Lakers, Bucks. Well, if you had to pick a surprise team, one from each conference, who would you pick? There was somebody who said the Nuggets and Heat. If I find that clip, I'm gonna record that little bit and I'm gonna put it out there for y'all to hear. Because I'm like some people who ain't here this evening. I'm not always right about everything. Or I called it because I actually talked to Eric Spoelstra and he told me. Yeah,
I said I keep receipts.
Yeah, I keep receipts. I don't just say I said it and then leave it out there. But no, good for Jimmy Butler. But earlier when you said, well, all the shit talking, well, we know who's going to get the most shit talking if they come up losing. And he ain't about to go down again in the NBA Finals. So LeBron is on a mission and becoming the first star player to win a third title with a different franchise and to do it for a historic franchise like the Los Angeles Lakers after 10 years of not having the playoff run, of not having the championship, and to do it in a year in which we are in and who we lost with the Lakers and won Kobe Bryant and Gianna, rest in peace. It's an epic story.
I'm a sucker for the underdog, but I'm also a sucker for the sob story. So this finals is making it hard as hell for me because I want to root so bad for the Heat because of Jimmy Butler and the whole underdog scheme there, because they should not win this series by the math of the way you look at these two teams. It's like, they're Lakers going to blow them out 4-0. It's not even going to be a gentleman's sweep. It's going to take them out. But then it's one of those like what the Heat have done and what the Nuggets have done or did, where you're like, I ain't sleeping on this damn team. You shut your mouth. Like, no, we're going to take them really serious. And again, like you said, LeBron going after another chip. That whole team's taken on that whole Mamba mentality thing. They've taken on the job's not done yet. You keep hearing the mantra. They've taken this year, this season, and everything that's happened during, throughout everything. They've taken all of it, they've wrapped it up, and they've turned it into a way to get after a goal. I mean, let's be honest, that's what they're there for. They're there to win a championship. They didn't bring AD over to try. They did it to do it. So anything else is a failure. Let's be honest. They know that. That's not next year. No.
It's win or bust.
Yeah, you saw what the Clippers did. Steve Ballmer, who I actually really like as an owner, he turned around and he was like, "Nah, Doc, ain't working." Boom, pulled the trigger. You made me trade four first-round picks and a pretty damn good kid at point guard for you to lose to the Nuggets.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, but you know what? Look, I got to commend him. He swung for the fences, just like in baseball. Hey, man, you swing for the fences. Sometimes you're going to hit a home run. Sometimes you're going to strike out. Unfortunately, this is one of those strikeouts where you remember like in the cartoons where they swing, but they turn around and then they get all twisted up and then they boom. It was one of those. But, hey, I got to give him credit.
I think this was one more of the where he swung and then they threw another one and he was still spinning and swung at the next two and Doc struck out right at the plate.
Well, technically he missed the next three because they struck out 3 in a row. So I'll give him some credit on that. Yes, it doesn't look like it worked out because you guys lost. We'll see what the Nuggets do with those. I mean, what OKC does with those draft picks. But hey, you got to win big money. You got to play big money.
I want to go back to Lakers, but really quick. Who do you think realistically gets the job, and who would you like to see get the job? Because I was thinking, I'm not saying I want to see this person get the job. I was just thinking about when we were talking about D'Antoni the other day and places he could go. And I'm not saying that the Clippers are going to be this great place because I don't feel like they have shooters like that. But, I mean, they have good shooters, but they don't have shooters like that, I don't feel like. But who would you, on that scale, would you see? Because I think Ty Lue is one of the guys that could get it. And I'd like to see them reach out and pull an assistant from somewhere. Not go after just another guy that's coached somewhere else and he's on his 5th organization, and get a guy that's going to come in and sells you an idea on a system and how he's going to implement it with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. These are your 2 superstars. This is what you traded the house for. You're going to build a new stadium. These are your guys. These are your centerpieces. These are the jerseys you sell. So my offense is going to utilize the 2 of these guys in this way. What do you think?
That is a good question, and in thinking about it, it's because when you bring that part up, I was just thinking like, well, I don't know what their situation is. So if I say a name where they're already someplace else, I do apologize. But I would like to see a former player with that particular team that they have. That's another thing. How many players on this current team not named Kawhi Leonard are still going to be here? Because apparently only Kawhi Leonard is off limits. Everyone else is up for grabs. So we'll see how much of a change they make roster-wise. But Ty Lue, okay, I wouldn't mind seeing him get another chance. I've heard Jeff Van Gundy's name thrown out there as well. But I love him so much.
I love him. I don't want him off TV.
Yeah, I kind of don't want him away. But
I don't know if he could coach today or Kawhi, because he has been pretty vocal the last few years about his views on load management.
Yeah, if he comes back to coach, that might not be the team for him to come back and coach to.
He'd be like, Kawhi, get your ass on the floor. Coach, it's 38 minutes, and this is my 4th game in a row. I don't give a shit.
hey, trust me. Steve Ballmer will tell him, yeah, you can't do that, coach. You can't do that. I would probably
like
say,
Tom Thibodeau with Derrick Rose.
I would probably say I would like to see Mark Jackson, but again, I love him and Jeff Van Gundy on the mic, but I wouldn't mind them bringing back Mark Jackson. He's a defensive-minded coach, a tough coach. He's shown what he could do with the Warriors when he helped build them up into what they became. With Juwan Howard is somebody that I'm interested in seeing, but he's at Michigan. I don't think he's going to leave them so soon. But that's why I said, again, if I name somebody who's got a job, I do apologize. I was just trying to think of NBA players in the coaching pool that are realistic, because I know there's quite a few.
What about Chauncey? Because he's a guy I keep going to. I really want to see Chauncey Billups get a coaching job.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because I completely whiffed on him, because it was just blank. I would love to see Chauncey Billups get a chance at it as well. To me, if you hire a former player to be a coach, to me, the best kind that you want to get is a guy who didn't have all the physical and athletic attributes that just put him over everyone else. It's going to be hard for Magic Johnson, Kobe, LeBron. It's going to be hard for those guys to be coaches, because as smart as they were and as much as they worked hard, they also had physical capabilities not everyone has. They also
Rondo needs to be a coach.
Problem is, I think Rondo going to end up slapping a player. I think Rondo going to end up slapping a player.
I said, get on the goddamn court.
It's either that or Rondo going to end up like he don't have a break-off windbreaker and have a uniform underneath and just say, let me show you what I'm talking about, son, and just rip it off and go out there and play. So, but look, unless he retires this year, he's not eligible. So there are a plethora of good coaches out there, but I think Mark Jackson and Chauncey Billups, to me, would be 2 of the names I would have high up on the list as well, simply because Mark showed what he could build with the Warriors. And for Chauncey, it'd be a nice give someone that opportunity as well in that particular regard. So I wouldn't mind seeing one of those 2 get it.
Another person to throw out really quick and then jump back to Lakers Heat, Alvin Gentry.
You know what? That actually could be one of the better solutions right there. A veteran coach like that knows the game in and out, has been around, seen it all. Unfortunately, man, he's always in a position where it's
he's in the wrong place at the wrong fucking time, bro.
Yeah, coming into an unwinnable position, make us respectable, and then we're going to move on from you.
But that's why I was thinking, like, this would be the first time he would go in somewhere with with players, an owner. Like, the owner's going to back you if he brings you in. You've got 2 superstars. Like, shit, bro. That'd be the best situation he'd been in.
And because and I don't know, I know his name's been thrown out there for other coaching gigs, but maybe they go out there and get Jason Kidd. You take away one of the main assistants for your across the hallway rival, and you also get a pretty good coach in Jason Kidd. Why not see about bringing him in?
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do that, just because of like what Joe was getting at, where they're always trying to go after the stuff that the Lakers had. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But getting back to the Heat Lakers, the NBA Finals, I am gonna assume the first NBA Finals to never have fans at it, right? It's a pretty good assumption to make. I mean,
I think you'd be pretty accurate on that. I think we can fact check that one.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to do that. But now, all right, so now the matchup that's been haunting my thought process for the last couple of days. Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis.
Mm-hmm.
That matchup down in the paint, like, I don't care about any of the other matchups on the court. I feel like that is going to be the matchup at the end of this game where we might be talking about Bam Adebayo as a different player because of, who knows, we might see him go on a scoring tear and be a different, I mean, he's a good defender. We know that. He is a damn good defender, good rebounder, all that kind of stuff. Huh?
Is he a good defender?
I mean, I think Bam's a really good defender. I've seen a bunch of his games this year.
Who he defended?
I mean, dude, they played the Bucks and the Celtics.
So who he defend?
Giannis, Tatum, Brown. I mean, there's some guys. Dude won an MVP on that team. Now, what I'm saying is, listen, here's what I'm getting at, though. Here's what I'm getting at, Kalani. My point is, either this is going to be a make or break for Bam, I'm saying, this matchup. This is why I've been thinking about it so much, because if Bam comes out and shows out against Anthony Davis, we're going to be talking about Bam Adebayo as a different player. If he doesn't, we are going to be talking about Anthony Davis on another level, where we're going to be putting him up there with, and I don't mean we, I mean people that aren't Lakers fans, that don't look at Anthony Davis on that level. Because there's a lot of people that aren't Lakers fans, that don't see Anthony Davis as this Kevin Durant, LeBron James, top 4 player in the NBA type thing, which, I mean, I think he's up there. I do. You?
I would say that until proven otherwise, I don't, like, he's one of the top players. Not top 5.
And he hasn't proved anything in the postseason. This year he has. This year he really has.
Well, see, and that's the other thing, too, is that he's finally found a level of consistency.
Yeah.
He finally found a way where, don't get me wrong, he's had some down games, the 2 rebounds against the Nuggets, that's unacceptable. But to me, that was always his biggest issue, was health, but then also the level of consistency and what he does. What he does in the fourth quarter, and the fact that he's been willing to step his game up and whatnot. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this particular matchup. No, it's going to be a good matchup. Don't get me wrong. But I kind of look at Bam Adebayo as, don't get me wrong, yes, he is a terrific defender. He's going to get blocks. He's going to get rebounds. But he has not taken on anybody like an Anthony Davis type in the postseason yet. Granted, there's not a lot of them out there, but there's not even a guy who you could say is like, okay, he played against Giannis. He didn't guard Giannis majority of the time because Giannis isn't a low post type guy. He's an in transition, on a perimeter, cut to the basket type guy. He played Tatum, once again, a perimeter guy. So despite the fact of the guys who were on the teams you guys beat, you didn't necessarily have a legit 4 or 5 that you had to defend night in, night out that could score in a multitude of ways. That's where Anthony Davis is going to be able to test his mettle and say, okay, let's see if the hype is real. Are you just a rim protector, or are you going to step out here and step up as well? That, to me, is what I'm waiting to find out.
And that's what I think, like I was getting at, I think that's what we're going to see is Is Bam this guy that we could put on that next tier? Or is he another, no hate because the guy's a decent player in his own right, both of these guys, but is he another DeAndre Jordan, Andre Drummond, where he's a rim protector and a rebounder, and that's about it?
Yeah, and look, don't get me wrong, man. You are what you are, and you do what you do. He is athletic, and he does show that he can get out and do things. But
I mean, Dwight Howard made a Hall of Fame career out of that.
I mean, hey man, damn near all the centers that are Hall of Famers that are known for defense did it. So I'm not going to knock him for that, but it is going to be one of those things where you say, okay, how you going to respond? You know, it'd be the same thing with the Nuggets. Oh yeah, they got Jokic and they got size, and they all right. Nuggets
who are you putting on Davis? Who are you putting to cover LeBron? Jimmy?
Look, when it comes to great players, this is not me trying to avert from answering the question. When it comes to great players, you're never going to shut them down. Like
no, yeah, I know that.
You look at any particular series, no great player was ever shut down. You try to contain them, and for someone like LeBron, he does it for different reasons. But if you look at the 2011 Mavericks that beat the Heat, one of the ways they did it, throwing different defenders at him, but also changing your defensive schemes up every other time down the court so he can't get used to it. So don't just do, and this is just an example, I'm not saying they do it, but don't just do a box one. Switch it up. That 2 series later, do a 2-3. 2 series later, go man-to-man. Then do a half-court press. You got to throw different looks at LeBron. Now, granted, from 2011 to now, he's seen a whole lot more and has grown since then and become more of a facilitator. But if you are going to go after LeBron, you can't just build a wall like you did with Giannis, because unlike Giannis, LeBron is a very good passer and is willing to give it up. It's not like he's trying to force it. So you can go ahead and put that wall up if you want to. I got guys who can finish. So I'm throwing Butler at him. I'm throwing Adebayo at him. I'm throwing Derek Jones at him. I'm throwing Dragic at him. I'm throwing every which able body that I can at him, just at different times. I'm trapping him. I'm trying to run him off his 3-point mark, not letting him get comfortable, trying to dribble, and do that step back. If need be, I'm pulling a guy on the least threatening guy on the court, and I'm running him at him. Again, I know he's a good passer, but still. And then, honestly, you just got to switch up your defensive schemes. Every 2 to 3 possessions, you switch it up, and that way he can't get comfortable in how he's looking. It's worked before, but I was also his first time with the new team. It was 9 years. He was 9 years younger.
He didn't have Anthony Davis.
Yeah. Only second time. Well, he did have a way to Chris Bosh, but again, that was their first time all meshing together, like you just said. He's got Anthony Davis, so it's really only the two of us. So, and there's also this other guy named Rajon Rondo that I didn't have on the other team. He's been pretty good this postseason. In case you guys,
yeah, and he's got that championship pedigree too. Exactly, he knows what's up. I like Rondo. But, like, now, see, why I bring that up is because something that actually really bothered me in that Celtics series was that they didn't just take Marcus Smart and just put him on Jimmy Butler the whole game. Like, just let him just lock dude up and make Jimmy work for it, tire him out. Because Marcus Smart, just with energy, would have tired him out. So, and I don't mean completely tire Jimmy Butler out, because I don't think you're going to do that. But just in the fact of slow him down a little bit so he couldn't do as much. That's why I was bringing it up. But another thing that I think is going to be interesting is, and this is something I always go back to, is how these benches play. Whoever's bench plays better, you're normally going to have the advantage. Yeah. So to me, it's going to be a big thing of your Carusos, your Howards, all these other guys, Danny Greens, your other guys, not your LeBron James and Anthony Davis. What are they doing? Are they hitting their percentages? Because let's be honest, Anthony Davis and LeBron could both sit there and go 40, 50% for the game. But if all these other guys aren't shooting worth a damn, and the Heat are, it doesn't really matter. And the Heat have been hot. And I think that's the other thing, is why this series is so interesting is I don't think either of these teams have played a team like that yet.
No, it's well, I mean, the Lakers have taken on teams that do have pretty decent depth. One thing both of these squads have shown though is the ability to adjust defensively to really get you out of your comfort zone and what you want to do. For the Miami Heat, it's a plethora of young guys, a bunch of underdogs who are just going to get in your face, not make it easy for you. You Jay Crowder, Robinson, Hero, all these guys in different forms are just going to come at you on both sides of the court and give you all that they have. And in some ways, it might sound surprising because they're in the NBA Finals, but in some ways, it's like they just surprise a lot of people. Where you almost think, okay, they got the first series, but they're not winning this series. Well, they got two, but this team didn't have that, and this inexperience. They're not going to do it this one. Wait, what now? What was? Oh, snap! So it's almost like they just kept surprising people. Ain't no surprises no more, especially here. And when you look at the Lakers, like how you brought up, they got a bunch of guys who have championship experience already. JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, Rondo. He doesn't play much, but J.R. Smith as well. I know. You pair that in with the fact that someone like Howard, this is only his second time in the NBA Finals. Might be his last chance at getting a championship ring to be on a really good team. LeBron James, history, Anthony Davis, legacy. Like, it's a lot at stake for these guys. So for them, they are going to be focused, and they're not overlooking anybody. Then you also throw in the spirit of Kobe Bryant. They even say on Mamba nights, we don't want to lose those nights. Those are our nights. So, they're going to have one, if not two, during this series, depending on I think they're only going to be on games 2. So, on game 2, they're definitely going to bring what they can. And whatnot. So to me, it's going to be a matter of adjusting which team can withstand the other one's wave. Because at some point, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Gordon Dragic, they're going to be hitting from beyond the arc, and that's going to translate to the rest of the team. How long can the Lakers withstand that, and then bounce back? And then when the Lakers get rolling and they get going, how long can the Heat withstand it, and how they bounce back? Adjustments and withstanding the other team's momentum change. That's going to be a big tell as far as who wins this, because we know both teams are going to have their moments. Who's going to not allow it to get too out of control, and what adjustments are going to be made throughout the game to take advantage of what they're seeing. Whoever could execute those early and often, 99% chance they're going to win.
So, excuse me. If I make the statement, the better coach might actually win this game. Could that be true?
That's true, but my question is, who's the better coach?
Well, but that's what I'm getting at, is we're going to find out, obviously, after the series is over. But you look at Brad Stevens gave Spoelstra all the credit in the world about what he did in that series. Even some of the Celtics players came out and said it about some of the defensive sets they put up and the offensive stuff, and it really was very impressive. I won't lie. And Spoelstra deserves a lot more credit on the coaching tree than I think we give him, like a lot more.
Well, this type of run that they did, and we'll see what type of fight they put up in the finals, it would get him the credit he rightfully deserves, especially if he pulls off this win. Before, he didn't get the credit because everyone just assumed, well, you got the big three. Yeah, anybody could win.
You got Shaq and Wade.
Well, no.
That was Pat Riley. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's like, unfortunately, we take credit away from coaches. Just like a lot of people didn't want to give Phil Jackson credit. But you had Jordan, Shaq, and Kobe. Of course you're going to win. One of those guys won without me, except for Shaq until he left. And then who do he have? Pat Riley and Dwayne Wade. So it's like, So it's like.
Plus, he got some rings as a player too, Phil. Let's not forget that. The Zen Master's kind of a beast.
I mean, I'm just saying, it takes great coaches to have great talent, and it takes great talent to have great coaches. Hence why all the top college programs have, majority of the time, a great coach leading it. It goes hand in hand. So it's not like one credit goes over the other. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, there's not a big school that you can't name the coach of.
No. I mean, literally, unless they just hired him. Like, hey guys, we just, Roy Williams had to step down. We just hired this guy, and when they find a replacement, it's going to be somebody we know. So yeah, I mean, unless Spoelstra does an outstanding job coaching, but LeBron and AD just go absolute hamstring. It's going to be a matter of not only coaching, but also just which other players step up. We know the key players are going to do what they have to do. Which other guys are going to step up and handle their business as well?
Yeah, and that like we were talking about a little bit earlier, I was that's going to be a big thing is these bench players, these other guys, these guys not named Jimmy Butler, Bam, and Tyler, and not named LeBron, AD, or Rondo, or whoever that third guy you'd like to throw in there as a name, stepping up and hitting big shots and doing these things to set these teams up, because a lot of these games we look at, LeBron had, crazy big shots in his career. But you look at the Golden State series, that big shot from Kyrie. The Heat, the Heat won, the big shot from Ray Allen. These other guys are always coming in clutch. And I don't just mean the Dwayne Wade and the, Kevin Love or the other guys. So there's always that third dude. Not that Kyrie was really a third. Because I think personally he should have won the MVP of that finals. That's my thought. But
well, yeah, I mean Curry should have won over Iggy. That to me that was just atrocity. Hey, you stopped LeBron James from averaging 40, so here you go. Like what? Like he averaged 33 for the series, and yet he gets Finals MVP. It's mind-boggling. Talk about that was like the ultimate caught up in the moment decision right there that just did not make a lot of sense to me.
They were like, here you go.
yeah. And just think that particular moment, what does that do? That affects someone like Steph Curry, who a lot of people, I'm not just talking about fans, but a lot of analysts do not give credit yet for being amongst the great players because he doesn't have a Finals MVP. The movement of the goalpost, it's to me, I do not understand how any player that entered in the last 15 years going forward, I don't understand how any of them become Hall of Famers, become all-time greats. I do not understand it because for them, the goalpost is always moved. Oh, well, I can't consider you a top guy because you didn't make the All-Star team.
It's like a popular nightclub, bro. It's like, in the beginning, we're going to let everybody in, but once you get popular, you're not cool, bro.
And
you come in, though.
And here's the thing. They stopped letting people in the VIP room after 1998.
He said, I'm trying to get in the boom boom room.
Yeah. But apparently that's only allowed for a certain player because,
What was that damn song? The Champagne Room?
Ain't no champagne room. Hey, cornbread. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I remember that freaking song, bro. Who was that? Wasn't that Chris Tucker?
No, Chris Rock.
Chris Rock. I knew it was one. I always confuse the two of them, dude. It's like who is it? Billy Joel and Elton John. I always confuse the two of them, which is funny because it's like, man, how you fuck that up? It's not it's the names.
now the Chris Tucker and Chris Rock, I couldn't understand that because they're both Chris. Billy Joel and Elton John, I don't know how the hell you get those two mixed up.
That shit is messed up, though. I do. I feel like they kind of look alike, though. I'm playing.
I guess.
No, my dad actually did a bunch of work for Billy Joel in his penthouse and stuff, too, and he used to do construction. I never got to meet him. Dad met him like once. Walked by. Let me get my money. But no, I'm excited about the finals. I actually really enjoyed that football game we got last night, too. Patrick Mahomes. Oh, by the way, I meant to text you before all that started Sunday, and I was going to be like, hey, man, you got me. Good week. It's over. Like, it's done. And then Alvin Kamara went ham sandwich, and then freaking Patrick Mahomes went absolutely nuts. That, though, was a good game. I thought the Ravens were going to come back. I really did. I'm disappointed they didn't. And I don't know what the problem was with Lamar Jackson moving the ball down the field in that game. If they just figured something out against him or they weren't trying to push the ball, they just did not look like that scary team that we saw last year.
I'll tell you what they figured out was the same thing the teams in the postseason figured out. Baltimore don't got no legit wide receivers that we need to be worried about. So how about we just cover everything underneath, play the run, and let one of them beat us. You know, you look at what was going on. Like the Baltimore Ravens running backs, by committee, neither one of them have had any big singular games. Now, granted, it's only 3 games, so let's not panic here. No. But in 3 games, none of them have stood out. Like right now, if you was to say who should be the starter, like you almost kind of just going off last season and name value as opposed to production. So Hollywood Brown is a terrific speedster, but he's only in his second year. 2, he does come off as maybe more of a slot guy or as a number 2 home run hitter as opposed to a number 1. Willie Snell, he's like a changeup type guy. He's not going to be your number 1 or number 2. He's the guy that you bring in the slot. You know, he gets about 4 or 5 targets a game, 2 or 3 catches he's going to make that are going to be big for you, but then that's about it. The tight end Andrews he's good, but that's a third down guy, and he's not a big stretch the field type guy. He's not like a George Kittle or Travis Kelce type that can get out there and really do damage down the field. So when you look at that, it's almost like, okay, well, we know what we're going to do offensively, score a lot of points. You are going to have to throw the ball. You don't have anyone we fear, so what you going to do? So, you know, it was unfortunate. It was a good game, but it was unfortunate that it didn't really live up to what many of us was hoping it was. And then also, when you throw in the fact that the Chiefs said, we're the defending champions and we're the 3.5 underdog here. All right. Oh, Patrick.
and then the thing came out where he was like, it was at that moment I took it personal.
yeah, you know, I mean, if nothing else, we just saw a documentary that showed high-level athletes, man, they take everything to the next level when it comes to grudges, looking for motivation, inspiration, anything. I mean, there's a certain quarterback in Tampa Bay who still is mad that he was 199th pick. 20 years and 6 Super Bowls later, he's still pissed off.
Still got a chip this big on his freaking
shoulder. So for anything, that's why, you know, I'm not a big locker room what's it called, chalkboard stuff. Don't give them anything to write on the chalkboard. I'm not big on that per se, but for a team that's looking for motivation, like the Kansas City Chiefs, because let's be honest, if you're looking at the NFL, if they don't get hit with the injury bug, it's going to be pretty hard for me to see any team beating them this year, especially in big games. Well coached, terrific players across the board, can beat you in a multitude of ways. And even when you know what's coming, you still can't stop it, whether it's the speed, the creativity, or just flat out, coach, he threw a shuffle pass. What the hell do you want me to do? So it's just one of those where it's like,
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's actually something I wanted to bring up as a point of Patrick Mahomes, I think, is changing the NFL in a way we've never seen. And why he's so deserving of the contract is, okay, let's be honest. A lot of the stuff that he's done, we've seen other guys do. I'm not saying all of it. A lot of it we've seen other guys do. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Cam in his first year, where, just this flashy running around, running out of the pocket, making these good throws. Granted, I don't think any of those guys have Patrick Mahomes' arm, where he could just do that what I used to call the Mike Vick flick, where he just does this shit and throws it 70 yards. It's just gone on like a wrist shot. But none of them have that, which Pat has. The other thing is the no-look throws. This guy practices this stuff, puts it in games, and it works. These shovel passes. The point is he is doing stuff that is groundbreaking. He's going to make young kids run around with number 15 Chiefs jerseys on and make them love football. And he's going to make another generation of kids that are eventually going to come up. And I think it's going to elevate the point that I'm trying to get is I think it's going to elevate football to where, let's be honest, I might be wrong about this, but this is the way I've always felt about it. They're going to elevate football to what they always wanted it to look like, which is college. 60, 70-point games, dudes running around doing all this crazy shit, all these crazy plays, and just very explosive, entertaining play.
Well, I mean, you got to also think, those college games rarely only happen when they play the bad teams. You rarely get an Alabama-Auburn game, Georgia, Florida game where they score that many points. And if they do, it's usually just one team doing it because the other team just didn't show up. And you also got to think it's at the NFL level, the best of the best on both on the field and on the sideline, supposedly. So to score that much consistently, that's to me, that's just a little too tough to do. But I do see what you mean. When you look at the Chiefs, I don't know, like I kind of feel like it's one of those where coming in, there was no negative build. Like the Kansas City Chiefs, outside of like with Broncos fans, Raiders fans, and Chargers fans, nobody really looks at the Chiefs as like a bad franchise. Like with the Packers, oh, they got all the trophies and all the history. Okay, Cowboys and Patriots and like all, the teams who are very successful, they have some history where, some fans are just like, I'm tired of hearing about this particular team.
And the Jets and, like all those teams.
Well, I mean, nobody south of 155th Street's ever heard of the Jets. So, yeah. I didn't know if they were.
I love you, Kalani. I was doing it to get a rise out of you. I was like, in the Jets, and they're one Super Bowl.
Well, you also look at it too, like the Chiefs fans. They're not known to be as annoying as Philadelphia Eagles fans. They're not known to be as rowdy as this and that. And then you got Andy Reid, his story.
Noxious as Giant fan or Cowboys fans.
Exactly. You look at Andy Reid, his personal story along with his professional story, how long he's been around, how close he has been before, and just how beloved he is with the Hawaiian shirts, the mustache, the
cheeseburgers,
and then you throw in Patrick Mahomes, who coming out of college, you really didn't have nothing bad to say about him. There were people who were down on Cam because of his attitude, the way he carried himself, and then the scandal. Aaron Rodgers, with his personality, kind of rubbed people the wrong way. Drew Brees had the shoulder injury, so it was almost like, But you look at Patrick Mahomes, and it's like, hey, man, we all kind of like the guy. Like, even me, I am a diehard Oakland Raiders fan, Las Vegas Raiders fan. Like, when he came in, that's supposed to be my hated rival. I like the dude. I can't
hard to hate him.
Yeah, I cannot stand Travis Kelce. I think Sammy Watkins could never live up to his height. And I think Tyreek Hill, outside of speed, is overrated. I love me some Patrick Mahomes, though. It's just something about him where you're just like, all right, man, just don't throw for 6 touchdowns against my team. Oh, God. Yeah, so he has that glow to pull you in, almost like a Magic Johnson type, where you're just like, it's magic. Like, what do you want me to do? So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they can do this season.
He's like back when they were younger, but Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose, when they were playing and they were on TV, I didn't care what was on. You put those games on because you were like, I want to watch them dudes fly. Like, what made MJ so big?
Like a Derrick Rose type player. Like, even though he played for the Bulls, I know that's one of your favorite teams. You wanted to watch him. You like, yo, I want to watch this dude. He just something about him just pulled you in. It's that light skin in this, man. That light skin in this, man. We people gravitate to us, man. We pull from both sides of the fence. It just works, man. It works.
But yeah, man, that's the thing, dude. It's those kinds of guys where when they're on TV, you can't not watch them because, and it's like I always tell people in baseball where watch as much Mike Trout as you can because we are seeing modern day Mickey Mantle right now. Same thing with Mookie. Watch as much Mookie Betts as you can because these two guys, when they're done and you didn't watch them, you can be like, shit. Like, I got to watch a lot of Kobe, and that's why like I said, I never disliked Kobe. He was a rival, so you had to root against him.
Of course.
But it was one of those, when he was playing other teams, bro, I was watching like, oh, shit, look what he just did. But it's one of those. Same thing with David Ortiz and Pedro Martinez, like you brought up. I'm a diehard Yankees fan. I hate the Red Sox to hell, but David Ortiz and Pedro Martinez, I respect the shit out of those two dudes. The rest of the Red Sox, I don't give a damn about. Those two guys, though, I love those guys.
I like how you had a call back to an older player for Mike Trout, but you didn't have one for Mookie. But that's okay. That's okay.
Josh Gibson. We're working. I got you, Josh Gibson. I got you.
Ain't a power like Josh Gibson, but okay. Now you just naming random.
What do you mean? What do you mean he ain't got power like Josh Gibson? You ain't never seen that boy drive that ball 500 feet. Mookie Betts.
First off, he ain't no boy. First off, he ain't no boy. Second off, and I'm joking with you, Rick. Second off, he ain't a power hit. Like, he hits home runs. He ain't no home run hitter like that. He ain't gonna end up being amongst some of the best home run hitters out there. He's an all-around hitter. You know what I'm saying?
I think if him and the boy over there in LA and Trout, if the two of those kids can turn around and they focused on power hitting, because let's be honest, they can be power hitters. That's not what they're focused on. They're contact hitters. If both those kids focused on power hitting, though, they could be 40, 50 home run hitters a year. And that's what I laugh about Mookie Betts, where he's like, I'm not a home run hitter. Listen, I watch a lot of fucking Red Sox games. I've been in the stadium with that guy a lot of times. I've seen that kid hit a lot of freaking home runs. You can't tell me you ain't no goddamn home run hitter. That kid hits a lot of freaking home runs.
How crazy is it? I know we're doing baseball right now, so I don't want to get too far into this because we got to do some football as we're wrapping it up. But how crazy is it that you could look at Major League Baseball and say Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Christian Yelich, Chris Bryant, Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, and those are just names I'm naming off the top of my head. I'm sure there's a few other batters out there as well. But if those guys did say, like, together, and let's just focus on, hey, how about we try to go for that home run record? Can you imagine what type of season? But look, we saw what it was when two guys were going after the record, and when one guy was going after the record. Can you imagine if more just said, "Hey, for one season, how about we all just try to break the record?" One season, Trout, Mookie, Judge, Giancarlo, like if they all just said, "Let's go for the record," in the same season, that would be something to see. But like I said, we're talking football now, so I don't want to get too far off into baseball. But man, that would be something to see.
No, they could, but that's what I was getting at with the Mookie thing, though. Is he 100% is a power bat? He doesn't sell it as a power bat, and he doesn't try and be one. But if he wanted to, he could have the home run title easily. His power is completely underrated. I mean, he's got crazy exit velo, and his launch angle is nuts. Let's be honest. No, he's one of the best players in baseball for a reason.
Definitely. And speaking of one of the best, it was unfortunate, but it is what it is. Cam Newton and New England Patriots defeated my beloved Las Vegas Raiders. Cam didn't necessarily have the greatest performance, but he is showing that in New England, hey man, shoulder feels kind of right. I can still run and move and stiff arm defenders off of me. I'm getting more and more comfortable with this playbook and with more and more chemistry with my receivers, the running backs. Hey, man, it's early. But Cam Newton and the Patriots might be the perfect storm that we never thought we wanted to see. What say you?
I can't even go there because you're gonna give me shit. So I'll just say
your favorite team, so you can't really talk about them in a biased way because you root for them. My bad.
I can beat the Patriots. Don't even go there. Them and the Giants. I can't stand those two teams. No, I wanted to see Cam go there, just because I thought. I talked about this with my roommate the other day. Belichick can make anybody look great. So take a guy that's good. He's going to make him look fantastic. Because we've seen – I was really hot on Jimmy G. Jimmy G went to San Fran, and I feel like since he's been there, he's been eh. Same thing with Jacoby Brissett. I mean, you go down the list of guys that have gone through New England and then gone somewhere else. I think Cam Newton balls out there this year. I think he gets another deal. And they go on a run. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make a serious playoff run this year. I'm being honest. I really wouldn't be surprised if they don't make a serious like AFC championship style playoff run this year.
Well, obviously we have to see what the teams and matchups are like when they reach there, but I certainly expect them to be in the postseason for sure. They just got too good of a coaching staff, and know how to fill players in. When I see what Cam Newton does there, kind of like what we were talking about with Patrick Mahomes, he brings an element now to a New England offense we just never seen. Nobody's fault. We're not knocking and saying it's better, but he does bring another threat to them and one thing we do know, the Patriots are one of the best teams at not having a specific game plan, but just exploiting what your weakness is. They might come in saying, we want to establish the run game. But if you come in stopping the run, they will make the adjustments and they will pass for 400 yards on you. You want to drop back and cover? Well, we're just going to run the ball on you for 250 yards. So they're one of the better adjusting teams in the NFL. You throw in someone like Cam Newton, who you always have to respect that he could take off and run. You also throw in the fact that, okay, because he can run, that now opens it up for at least one, if not two other guys on any given Sunday to have a surprising showing. I mean, who would have thought going in that Rex Buckhead was going to be the one to deliver the dagger into the Raiders offense? But
that boy got turned into a tornado in that game. Did you see?
I'm just saying, man, like a level 3 tornado. I don't know what the levels are for tornadoes, but he was
saw the end zone, the sideline. Cam Newton, the end zone, the sideline.
Dude, he was like Sharknado 3 in there. So, I mean, it was absolutely insane what he was doing to us. But that's because when you throw the adjustments that the Patriots make, but then when you throw in Cam Newton, you have to respect the fact that this dude might take off and run. So you have to respect that with the spy, shifting your adjustments. And because of that, it allows other players to step up and do big. So it's our first loss of the season. I definitely am confident that the Raiders are going to have a good season overall. But now you suffer that kind of loss. Now we're taking on the Buffalo Bills and how they're looking. Woo! Man, oh, man, not looking good. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I'm playing the Chiefs after the Bills. Wow!
Yep. You could mark one win in there. You guys play the Jets this year.
Hey, I won't be surprised if that's the week Sam Darnold goes for 471 yards,
6 touchdowns.
Some random receiver nobody knew about that they're going to make a Disney flick off of comes in and he gets 3 touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell's back off the IR. He has an explosive game. It's just going to be one of
400 all-purpose yards.
Yeah, like what the heck? They're going to put him on punt return. He's going to return a punt for a touchdown. It's just going to be That's
funny. Man, it's funny. We were talking about that Gase thing that one day, and then don't know if you saw that thing I put up on Twitter where I was like, my rant was warranted. It was a whole thing about how bad the offense actually has been by the numbers, and it's like hysterical how bad it is. Like the article literally was saying how impressively bad these stats are. Like they're so bad it's impressive. Like I don't think you could try and be that. Me and you, I think, could coach that team. We'd have one win already. Without a doubt. No questions asked.
I promise you, and I was talking about this today. What I do not understand, and I'm being honest, if you are a team, you're not like if I'm the Jets, the Bengals, a team like that. Those are just the two first teams that come to mind. I'm not expected to win anything. Chances are I'm not going to win much, if at all. I'm not punting all season. It's 4th and 29. Run it. I'm chucking and diving in all the way through. I would do it in ways to hopefully protect my quarterback so he's not getting murdered 7-8 times a game. But I'm throwing the ball and I'm going for it. If nothing else, I'm gonna try to score 50 points a game. I might lose, but I'm gonna be entertaining. So at least if nothing else, you guys are gonna tune in and watch. I do not understand it whatsoever because it's like, why? Like if I'm the Jets, it's 4th and 4. Why am I putting it? Go for it. But what do you have to lose? And Adam Gates most likely is going to get fired anyways.
I don't know. That ownership there, they've got their head so far up their ass. I don't think they know if it's day or night, truthfully.
Well, if it's up their ass, they really going to have trouble with the daylight and whatnot as far as which one is which. But they did say that they were going to be paying close attention to Adam Gates and the team these next 2 weeks. Well, given how they looked this past week and how they might look this coming week, that might be the final act that they just say, okay, we got to go another direction. You look at what happened in Chicago. They made the switch at halftime with Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky, and it's like, hey, man, we got to go another direction. And kudos to them for doing that. Now, you can't do that for the long haul. Nick Foles isn't that type of quarterback. He's basically your reliever, your closing pitcher. He can't give you a full 7, 8, 9 innings. He gets you 2. Maybe 3, and that's literally asking a lot from him. So, hey, you know what? Going forward, why not have Mitchell Trubisky QB the first half, Nick Foles QB's the second half? Do that the rest of the season.
I'm not against that, and I'm all for all that because, like you're saying, these teams that have nothing to lose, go for it. Who cares? Find out what you got, figure it out. You're not going to the playoffs. Lose some games, get a better draft pick, work on the next year, and do the same thing until you have a team that when you do that, you guys literally can't lose games and you look like the Chiefs running around out there.
Exactly.
That was actually a point I was going to bring up earlier about the Ravens is with that team and the way it's built, do you go after a veteran receiver? And I don't mean veteran towards the end. I mean veteran with, 5-6 years left. Do you go towards a veteran receiver with Lamar Jackson? Or do you just keep building with young guys and draft picks and stuff like that, and you worry about a couple of years from now and you don't try and compete with the Chiefs right now? Because that's the problem. Everybody's comparing what Lamar and him are doing the same way they're going to compare Trey Young and Luka for the rest of their freaking careers.
You got to go now, man. You got to go for it. Yeah, you can build the young way. But just right now, look at the NFL and what we're seeing, okay? Josh Allen is a young QB. They're starting to put a team together. And if that defense stays together, the Bills are going to be a team you got to legit look out for going forward. Then, this Justin Herbert kid, he looks fairly decent in San Diego. Maybe not ready yet, but he looks fairly freaking decent. And then you look at a guy like a Dak Prescott, okay, they still haven't gotten over the hump. But it's not like he's looking horrible out there. You look at the fact that, okay, Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl a couple seasons ago. Carson Wentz went a couple of seasons ago. And now, ever since that injury, he's never looked the same. You don't know what's going to happen. And if someone that runs around like Lamar Jackson, one injury could be what ends up derailing his career. So you have
Look at Alex Smith.
Yeah. So I would just say you got Lamar Jackson. Start trying to get guys. Granted, you still get guys for the future, but you try to also go out and get guys now, and you make that run. how many teams can we honestly say in our lifetime has found a franchise quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, running back, another wide receiver, and all those guys are under 25 or like 27, 26 and under?
No.
And they all want to stay together, or at least most of them want to stick together. That rarely happens. So when you have an opportunity to get a guy, you better run him as quick as you can. You look at Indianapolis. Andrew Luck turned that team around. But look what happened. They tried to go the slow route in building a line through the draft, take their time, but yet he got pummeled all those seasons, ended up having to retire. If they would have said, okay, we got our franchise quarterback, let's go buy a wide receiver. Let's go get a tight end. Hey, while we draft the offensive lineman, let's try to also buy one as well, get him some help. Maybe he'd still be around in Indianapolis. So if you want to go out there and do the slow route with your franchise guy, you better hope you hit on your next few draft classes. Otherwise, it's just not going to work out for you. We've seen around the NFL, that window that everyone thinks is going to be open for 5, 6, 7 years, it closes very quickly and rarely does it open back up.
Very hard to get back. You look at a team like the Falcons that went to the Super Bowl, routed the Patriots in the first half, and the Patriots came back, smacked trash out of them, and ever since then, it's not the same team. It's not even – I don't even want to say it's a good football team anymore. It's not even a decent football team at this point. They're a bad team. So if you look at stuff like that, same thing with the Eagles. I mean, dude, look at the Seahawks. They are a good team every year, year in, year out. They've had a rough time getting back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, shoot, the Seahawks have had a rough go. Rodgers, Drew Brees, two teams and offenses that look like they were going to run amok.
Oh, yeah.
They haven't been back. It's hard, man. It is extremely hard. So if you have an opportunity right now with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, I would say go for it, man. I know that's not necessarily your forte, but you got to take some chances out there, especially when you look at, the unfortunate showings he's had in the postseason so far. You got to get this man more help so that when you do take on those better defenses and things, lights are a little brighter, stage is a little bit bigger, more pressure, more attention is on it, you guys can come through and come forward. Because as much as Patrick Mahomes does, he also has a lot of great talent around him to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Got nobody's out there. So this idea of, well, you're supposed to be this and that. Yeah, show me a guy who did not. John Elway ain't win nothing, so he got a Hall of Fame wide receiver, a Hall of Fame running back, and a really good other wide receiver out there as well. So this idea that, as a quarterback, you're supposed to make everyone better, I can't make sugar. I can't make sugar out of shit.
It's the truth, and I think the biggest help they can get Lamar right now, funny enough, obviously he needs the wide receiver. But a explosive back with hands like Kamara or McCaffrey, or like we've seen out of Hilaire these first few games. A guy that where Lamar gets moving and this running back could be in front of him floating in an open spot and, get a hole and take off and give Lamar somebody to dump to. Because let's be honest, Mark Ingram's a good running back, but he ain't blowing nobody's doors off down the sidelines anymore. And not that I think he was really doing that in the beginning of his career anywhere in college. He was a bulldog. But a Kamara, McCaffrey, Barkley, not that you're ever going to find another Saquon Barkley. They don't make them like that. That dude is built in a lab.
Well, I'll tell you, he's being built in a doctor's office right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Speaking of doctors, did you hear about that thing with the Chargers?
Yeah. We'll definitely get into that. But we'll see what he does with the Giants. But I'm surprised that Devontae Freeman wasn't on their radar as well. I know they drafted J.K. Dobbins, but like you said, to get someone like Freeman who can not only run but catch out the backfield, I would have thought would have been somebody on their radar. But maybe with the guys they already have, Gus Edwards, Mark Ingram, Lamar Jackson, and then you throw in J.K. Dobbins, maybe they just figured, hey, man, it's one ball. It's only one guy can run it at a time. So now we're not going to go that particular route. But it needing of a versatile running back, he certainly seemed like he might have been a good choice, but maybe his time in New York will prove otherwise.
And he's a beast, Freeman, too. Oh my God. And honestly, I would love, just because I don't like the Giants to begin with, I would love to see them trade Barkley, which is never going to happen. But I'd like to see them trade that kid to a competitor, because he's one of those kids I think he would do some damage in the postseason.
Well, funny enough, I mean, the Giants are a franchise that, despite being down these last few years, they have shown that they generally or historically are not a franchise that is down for long. They don't necessarily they're not in the Super Bowl every year, but they're typically for the last 15, close to 20 years, they've been a consistent playoff team. Now, granted, they did have a certain quarterback back there the whole time that they're trying to figure out. But you know what though? You also gotta look at this. Who's the last big time running back that led a team to a Super Bowl? So as good as Barkley is, he's kind of got to have everything else around him in order for that, because big time running backs don't win Super Bowls.
No, and that's why I would love to see him go somewhere else. And honestly, the both of those New York teams that play in the Meadowlands have been an embarrassment the last decade. I looked at the numbers the other day because somebody posted it, and it's horrific. The Jets actually have won more games, which I was surprised. I really didn't think they did. I honestly did not think they did. But in the last decade, they won more games. But that just goes to show you how bad both of those teams have been.
Yeah, it's been a downward spin from. I know the Giants had a couple good seasons when Odell first got there, but it has been pretty bad for them. I
don't think Daniel Jones is the answer in New York at all. At all. I think he's a decent quarterback, but
I think it's too early to still tell. They got to get him some offensive weapons. You can't just say take a running back and then we'll give you just whoever at wide receiver. They got to get him some legit wide receivers in there. And don't necessarily have to be top 3, top 4 guys, but they got to get some pretty good wide receivers in there to see what he can do first before we start doing that. Hey, listen, you got to get guys talent, man. You got to give them talent. You look across the board, give me one player who is good, who you consider top 10, that doesn't have other good talent around him. Can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of 2 guys with very limited talent, but not none.
Who?
Brady and Rodgers. I don't think they had a ton of weapons around them their whole career. I mean, they had some big names here and there, but not like, I think if Brady had Randy and they were both in their primes at the same time and were together at the same time for longer, it'd be a completely different conversation. But Gronk, he's going to go down as one of the best to play the position, so I can't.
I mean, Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe even said Gronk is the greatest tight end ever played the position.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not like none, but
yeah, he had Randy Moss that when they set that record the year. Rodgers has had good talent. I mean, right now Rodgers has a top 5 wide receiver and a top 5 running back on his team. So once again, you show me a guy who's supposed to be good in the NFL, top 10. And that doesn't have other talent around him. Daniel Jones is only second, third year in the NFL, and does not have anybody. Like honestly, maybe you would know Richie, or some people out there just because we're hardcore fans. But honestly, how many wide receivers can you name on the New York Giants right now?
I mean, I know they have Shepard and the tight end Ingram. Besides that, though, they don't have much at wide receiver. But that's the other thing. I mean, I get why they did it, but you had Beckham and you let him go. I don't think Beckham is a top – I don't even know if Beckham's a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL anymore, honestly. I think he rode that hype train off of that catch in Dallas and just been riding that ever since.
Whoa, hold up. You look at his numbers. It was not just one catch. That dude was on a tremendous run for X amount of games, and he had top – I don't have it right now, but at the time, I think it was the first 30 games of his career, he was one of the leading guys in receptions, touchdowns, yards for any wide receiver for the first 30 games or the first 300 catches to make these many have these many stats. He was so much more than that. I understand that because that was shown so much, it got on a lot of people's nerves. He was so much more than just a one.
Let me rephrase that. Because he was a good receiver. I'm not saying he wasn't a good receiver. His career went down the shitter after that. Slowly. If you look at from that point to now, numbers, the way he's played, all that.
It was a couple seasons after that he was still top notch. It's just like everyone else. Unfortunately, he suffered an injury and just couldn't bounce and just wasn't able to gain his footing from it. And then all the other antics were shown. And yeah, it was very unfortunate. Coincidentally, when those things started happening, what did you notice about the Giants? As a franchise, they started to unravel. They were losing some of their veteran players, couldn't figure out what to do couldn't get a head coach in there. They wanted to move on from Eli Manning, but they didn't have anyone in charge. They didn't have anyone in charge that they could trust yet. It's just that they were tied together as far as, hey, when there was stability and we had a vision and a path, I was on the right path of being great. When the stability and the foundation started messing up and we started not knowing which way we were going, I started to twinkle. I started to wave.
I feel like that had a lot to do with Tom Coughlin leaving. Because you look at Tom Coughlin, when he got to Jacksonville, all of a sudden they were a freaking team. And then they turned into a playoff team and a really good team in the AFC. Yeah, and then they, I don't know what happened. Then they imploded.
Well, players turned on him, man. Kind of like what happened when he was in New York. Michael Strahan even said it, that he was losing a team. But when Michael Strahan told him he was losing a team, Coughlin changed up how he treated the players and acted, and that's when things started to work out. But when he went to Jacksonville and he wasn't the head coach and he was in the office, he tried to run it in that same mindset. Just like now, with me coaching youth football, I talk to some of the coaches and I say, listen, I'm not a savant, but these kids aren't wired the same way we are. We can't do the same things that coaches did when we were coming up. And I'm not talking about all the brutal old school stuff, but we can't go about it that particular way with all these players. They're not wired the same way. They're different. So you
don't still kick dirt in their face when they're doing push-ups and stuff? That's not a thing still?
Not at all. That's not a thing anymore.
They don't do that anymore?
No, they don't do that anymore. I had to get 3 different mouthpieces having that done to me. So, yeah, it was not fun at all. Was not fun at all.
All about that.
It is. So when Coughlin tried doing that with the Jaguars, it was like, hey, man, what the hell are you doing? But because he wasn't the head coach and he didn't have anyone on the team who had the cojones to pull him aside and say, hey, man, you don't lose a team like this. Well, look, the team ended up revolting against him. The coach was out. The team left, and he's gone. So it's like this old school military type way, it doesn't work. Hell, it really didn't even work back then, okay? If you didn't have talent, it's not going to work now, but guys are making so much money, and they've seen that same old shenanigan act since day one. Kind of like
unless you're Bill Belichick. Well, then people walk in that door expecting that shit, and they're just like, yeah, bro, what you need me to do? I'm trying to get a ring.
Exactly. And with Bill Belichick, you can look at that, and exactly like you just said, I got the rings. And not just the rings, but I have shown you I can adjust with the times. I mean, think about it. He has been successful since 2000 for over 20 years in the NFL. That's not supposed to happen. The offense has changed. The defense has changed. Players leave. And Bill has shown, I'm good.
It's on to Miami, baby. On to Miami.
I'm good. I can adjust and make this happen. So that's another reason as well, is that players respect the fact that he has shown he can get it done. You know what I mean? And then just from my understanding from guys like Randy Moss and others, he does have a personality to him. He just doesn't like to show the media. But he does have a side to him that's not so
No, and I feel like you got to see that on that NFL 100, that top 100 players all time, where he sat down and talked. You really got to see a lot more of his, damn, why don't you talk like this in the interviews? Because he doesn't like doing the pressers. He likes making a joke out of it. It's like Joe said that one time. He'll go tell players, like, watch this shit. I'm going to go out there and mess with him. And he will go out there and do it. But it's funny because being so close-lipped for so long, being that way for so long, and being so successful, it's one of those things where you say you hate him, but it's almost hard to hate him because you got to recognize he's probably the one of, if not the greatest coach of all time. Like I brought it up. I think they might. I thought at 6 they had to do it. If he wins 7 with another quarterback, they got to rename the trophy. I'm sorry. He wins 7 with a different quarterback. You got to call it the Belichick.
They probably won't rename it while he's in.
They'll wait till he's dead to do it. Like Pete Rose, they'll put him in the Hall of Fame when he's dead.
Very possible. Very, very, very.
Oh, they'll do that.
Very, very possible. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it is something that they probably would do. And knowing Bill, and like he showed on NFL 100, he's such a historian of the game. He probably wouldn't want that. He'd be like, no, Vince Lombardi deserves it, et cetera, and it's totally fine. But yeah, man, it's one of those ways. It's one of those particular ways. But you got to adjust. You have to adjust. And speaking of adjusting, 1 second here as I pull this out because I want to make sure I say I get it right correctly. Speaking of adjusting, we saw that. Where is it? Hold on. I got the wrong damn week. We saw. I know Joe will probably like this. We saw the Packers and the Saints put on a hell of a slug out. Despite Alvin Kamara killing me in fantasy football this week. It was one of those matchups that lived up to the hype, and it doesn't have to just be this particular game because I know we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. But just overall, like you see that and you just say, "Wow!" Like in watching that, as many points that was scored, I didn't feel like there was no defense being played. It was just great offenses by great players.
Those two boys put on a show. Rodgers and Breeze went out there. And they were like, forget these young bucks and Wilson and Jackson and Mahomes. We're the 2 old men that can still go out here and sling the ball around. And it was really cool to see. And it was fun to see those guys throw some points up and gunsling. Because, I mean, I feel like there's some games you don't get to see that. And especially a shootout like that with 2 of the best.
And like I said, it's a shootout, but you don't feel like the defenses aren't playing like, oh, it's just all offense. No, they made some plays, but those guys are just so much better at making offensive plays. And, I've said this on the show before. I think the first 5 to 6 weeks, we're going to see some really good offensive performances as the defenses still get adjusted and get their cohesiveness down and their chemistry. Then we'll start seeing, it's not going to be a complete shutdown, but we'll definitely start seeing more defenses have better performances and offenses not going for all the big numbers that they're putting up. But if you also look at it, perfect example, like I brought up earlier, look at someone like Buffalo. They went out and said, okay, let's go get John Brown. Let's go get Stephon Diggs. Let's go draft Singletary. Let's give our quarterback weapons and let's utilize him in a way where we can exploit that big arm of his, still have him run, and let's put up some points. We got a defense. Let's put up some points. You see more and more teams trying to really put as much offensive talent around their quarterbacks as possible because that's what you need to win the game. I mean, heck, even Minnesota, who's not even a big offensive threat, they got a production from their rookie wide receiver, either in Jefferson. So it's one of those where we say, hey, we're trying to go out here and give our guys as much opportunity as possible before Joe Arrigo comes on and tells us that he talked to somebody that knew all this and he called it all. So, yeah.
Welcome, Joe.
I thought you guys were talking about the Sunday Night Football game. That's why I jumped on.
We were for a second, like a half a second.
I mean, we literally just said it was a good. We literally said it was a good game, and Joe said, "Oh, gotta go. Here we go."
Nah, I seen that. I was like, all right, you know what? Like, look, Drew Brees can't throw deep anymore. We said that last week. Green Bay played a lot of they're playing a lot of when they were manned up. Those combo routes got them little routes, but they dared them to throw deep, and he couldn't stretch the field. So that was big. Not having Michael Thomas was big. At the same time, missed tackles. That game shouldn't have been that close. The Packers missed a lot of tackles. They missed 90. Kamara had 90 yards and missed tackles. One of them basically by one dude, Redmond, that plays for Green Bay. So that was a good game. I think the Saints are in trouble, to be honest with you. I think Sean Payton knows it, and I think Breeze is done. On the flip side, I give LaFleur credit. I mean, the dude is 16-3 as a head coach. His offense is clicking. They've scored 37, 42, and 43 points, the most in a 3-game span in team history. Rodgers is playing like he did 4 or 5 years ago prior to some of the injuries setting in. And they're winning. They won. They beat a very, again, I see the Saints in trouble, but if you think on paper, a really good team without their best offensive weapon in Devontae Adams. Aaron Jones is one of the top 5 running back in the league. Green Bay looks really good right now. I'm happy about that. But what did you guys over the week, like out of all the NFL games this weekend, what was the one takeaway that you guys had of all? If you just like do things like in a scope, what was the one takeaway that you guys had?
Very good quarterback play across the board, everywhere. Every game had at least one quarterback that made me go, wow.
Kalani?
Wasn't it just a few years ago we said offenses like this were gimmicky and won't work in the NFL, and that's for college and high school? Kind of seems every single team runs them, regardless of how old your quarterback is. So, yeah.
Mine is injuries. And I think we're going to see more the next couple of weeks because there wasn't a training camp, and these guys are still trying to play themselves into shape. And you're going to see.
I feel like that's been a theme of the season.
I agree, and I'll take it a step further now with this Viking Titans COVID issue, with 5 players and personnel from the Titans having COVID. In that game against the Steelers, potentially the Titans Steelers move to Monday. Vikings, they're still looking to play. This is where we're going to see teams that are about it and about that life in terms of winning the title versus the teams that are about going out, smoking, getting that wop, and having a good time. You know, professionals versus guys that are in the league. No, I'm being dead ass serious. Like, I mean.
No, I know. Laugh at the wop.
Oh, man. That wop.
But, you know, like we saw with the NBA bubble, you get a bunch of young men who are not used to being closeted up and being restricted on what they can do, the adrenaline pumping, the physical nature of it. Hey, man, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But you know what, though? And I do get it's an easy narrative. I'm not going to blame the lack of training camp. We've seen people with full training camps and preseasons, and they still have a plethora of injuries going into it. And every year, it's a different reason. Oh, well, it's because of climate change. Well, it's because the draft was held here. Oh, it's a physical game, and it's unfortunate that this does happen. You know, basketball has injuries, but not as many season-ending injuries. It's very unfortunate, but you look at what you are required to do and what parts of your body are mainly used and hurt in football. It's just the nature of the beast. So yes, it's very unfortunate that there's a plethora of injuries, but that's every single year. You know, that's nothing new.
I agree with that, but I'm talking about dudes that's not in shape. I mean, look, they didn't have the normal allotted time to go work out, go hit the parks, go hit the facilities because everything being shut down. So that's.
And what about the guys who are in shape? Where were they going? Because there's guys who are in shape. Where do they go? I mean, just like you said, Joe. This is a guy. That just shows what guys are about it and what guys are about
right
and clout chasing.
Yeah, but look at Jimmy Butler. He was probably training the hardest out of anybody all off season, but all of his teammates' goals, was training, got yelled at in the hotel for training. What's Jimmy Butler doing tomorrow night? He's the only guy in the East playing basketball. That's what he's doing.
Exactly. And that goes to the point even with the NBA when we said it a few weeks ago. The Lakers came into this bubble with a purpose. Their goal is to win a title. You had other guys, and it's coming out now. We kind of talked about the Clippers not buying into Doc Rivers, what he was selling. Lou Williams not buying into the bubble. Kawhi and Paul George not really being vocal leaders or leaders. That was Lou Williams, and he's not buying in. Montrez and Beverly not in shape while in the bubble. All this stuff is being reported now, and it's the same thing with the NFL. The teams with the guys the teams that who's serious about winning the title, those guys aren't going to put themselves in jeopardy losing money. And in both cases, you're looking at the two teams that probably took the bubble the most serious. And you're looking at the teams that are starting to separate early in the season. Because if you look at the NFL, you look at it in the quarters. You want to at least win each quarter. So finish 3-1 each quarter. You can do that. You're 12-4 and you're a playoff team. No matter what you do, you're 12-4 and you're a playoff team. There's never been a 12-4 team that has not made the playoff. So if you win each quarter, and those are the teams that are doing it.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. It's you got to take it in spurts. But Joe, I wanted to address something you brought up, and as the games go on, they will be judged accordingly. But when you say Drew Brees doesn't have it anymore, and the Saints are in trouble, and Drew Brees can't throw the deep ball, you did mention that he doesn't have his number one weapon in Michael Thomas for a couple of games. I know Devontae Adams missed this one. If you look at that particular game, and I know, look, we can go throw for throw and to really get down, but just looking at it, Brees had more passing yards than Rodgers. And if you look at the receivers for his long, deep routes, it's not like Rodgers' guys had 20, 25, 30-yard bombs or whatever. He had, for
Lazard
this guy,
had two of them.
Lazard made a big play on one that resulted in the big catch. That wasn't like a 50-yard bomb that he caught that went on from there. And that's only one. And then you also think about it. If Drew Brees is missing his number one guy, right? Your guys, Green Bay has shown since y'all Super Bowl run, you guys change out your wide receivers. So there's always one or two guys in the wings waiting. New Orleans doesn't have that. Emmanuel Sanders isn't living up to be the player many thought he was going to be. Torrey Smith, who we thought like a year or two ago, I believe, he had a couple moments where he was a big run hitter. Hasn't been that since. Jared Cook isn't living up to what he did last year. So while they may be in trouble, you also got to look at it and say, they're just guys on the Saints wide receiving corps who aren't stepping up like other guys are.
Okay, so Lazard had a 48-yarder and a 70-something yarder in that game.
So there was no run up to catch on those yards?
No. The 70-yard there was probably 30 yards run after catch, but Green Bay is not a team that passes the ball anymore. They're not a team that is a pass first team. That's a run first team. If you look at what the advanced statistics, and I'm not an advanced statistic, I'm not an analytical dude like that. But their run passes, like it's damn near 50-50. If you look at their passing attempts versus rushing attempts. And going into that game, Aaron Jones was leading the NFL in rushing. It's not like Devontae Adams was leading the NFL in receiving yards or whatever the case may be. Devontae had the great first game that crushed Rich, and then had a game that was a three catch game, and then didn't play last week. You look at you look at offensive genius is a term that gets thrown around with Sean Payton. Other coaches get that a lot because they turn chicken shit into chicken salad for the most part. That's what people say. You know, you can plug in this receiver. Well, the Saints have Mike Thomas, but they also went out and spent money on who's the receiver they got that went from the Patriots to the Rams. No, I understand that, but I understand they had him. He's hurt. but they went and spent big money. Oh, they went out and spent big money on Emmanuel Sanders. Whatever the Smith, the other receiver that has taken that slot receiver spot, that X or the Y spot. He had 2 huge games the first weeks of the season. Cook got hurt in the second quarter of this game, hurt either his knee or his ankle, but that's par for the course with him, especially early on or in the mid years of the contract. So, and Drew Brees, if you ask Raider fans, Drew Brees is an elite quarterback, right? He makes his receivers better, or right? So now is it that the receivers aren't good enough for Drew Brees to make him better? And quite frankly, people. Well, wait. Let me finish. Let me finish this last thought. Go along with that.
You kind of wrong on what?
Say what?
You kind of wrong on it. You said Smith had 2 big games before this. He only had 1 against us. He had 4. He had 1 catch for 4 yards the first game, 7 catches for 86 yards against the Raiders secondary.
Okay, then but does his speed, whatever that's enough. The same thing as the run factor, speed makes you have to account for him.
You got to be productive.
Right, but you still have to account. Willie Gault wasn't always productive, but his speed was still accounted for. But my point is Sean Payton and Drew Brees have as many titles as Aaron Rodgers, and the Green Bay Packers have been criticized for only having 1 title with Aaron Rodgers, only winning 1 title with Brett Favre. But the New Orleans Saints have 1 title, and that same criticism doesn't go to them.
Well, no one's calling Drew Brees the most quarterback we've ever seen. Aaron Rodgers, since he came out of Cal.
No, some people have said that.
No, across the board, Joe, it is overwhelmingly the majority of people have said Aaron Rodgers is more gifted than Drew Brees. Drew Brees is very good. I'm not saying he's a bum, but it is across the board. I'm not talking about the local radio guy or this one analyst. Across the board, if you took 20 analysts on all the major platforms, more than 15 are going to say Aaron Rodgers. So it's different levels to it, regardless of your accomplishments and your stats. What I'm saying is yes, there are some issues there for sure, but to suggest that this guy is done because his guys aren't stepping up as others are, I find that to be a little hard to believe until I see further evidence, because right now, if your guys aren't stepping up, just like a couple of years ago when the Green Bay Packers offensive line was not good, it just wasn't that good. There was injuries, guys weren't experienced enough to step in. It looked like, well, what the hell's going on with this offense? But then guess what happens? Guys start getting healthy, guys start getting put in the right places. When that line looks good, oh, wait a minute, now we're rocking and rolling. This particular season, and maybe some of last season, some of these wide receivers aren't stepping up like they should, especially this season without their number 1 guy there. Look, you go out there and you try to bring a guy in like a Sanders, hoping he can benefit from playing next to a number 1 guy and fit in your system. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We've seen it in New England. We've seen it with the Rams. We've seen it in a lot of places. Some guys work. Hey, you guys brought a tight end in who was pretty damn good in New Orleans, and he wasn't shit with you guys. So sometimes some things work out.
Seattle either.
No. Again, he wasn't in Seattle either. Some people. But I'm just saying, sometimes you bring someone in hopes that, okay, this is going to work out, and it just doesn't for one reason or another. And I think right now we're seeing that with the Saints. Without Thomas, their passing game is not the same because they don't have that number 1 guy. Speed is nice, but if you can't catch the ball and you can't be a legit threat to defenses, it's only going to get you so much.
But if you watch Breeze, there's something not right. His game is not the same, and I would say this, and I've said this. I would say this about Rodgers, and I've been very vocal about this with friends, with other people. I didn't have a problem with them drafting Love based off of Rodgers not being able to stay. If he's healthy and he's getting the ball out on time and in rhythm, he's still a magical quarterback, but he hadn't been doing that even last year. The same criticisms that people have with Derek Carr and other quarterbacks about throwing the ball away, taking the check and holding the ball too long, taking a sack, refusing to throw the ball into tight coverage because of one interception. Those are the same criticism Packers fans have had with Rodgers. The only difference is he's Aaron Rodgers, and there's a cachet that comes with that. You're right. People would say that Rodgers is more gifted. Talent-wise, yes, Aaron Rodgers may be the most gifted quarterback ever, but guess what? So is Dan Marino. I mean, arm-wise, Dan Marino's, him and Elway's arm is unparalleled, even with Patrick Mahomes, who's right there. But what Marino and Elway could do with the ball is completely I've never seen before.
He don't. We never.
At the same time, say what?
Well, that is true. What we seen him do, Patty, we ain't never seen that before either. I would venture it's a short career. I would venture in 5 years. If he continues on what he's doing, we're probably going to say he's got the best arm we've ever seen in the National Football League. If no injuries, he's got to have time to build it. I think he's going to have the best arm we've ever seen in the NFL.
He makes it look too easy for him not to.
Too easy.
Those other guys reared back and put their ass into it. Patrick Mahomes is like, no look, 70 yards.
Well, the thing is guys, I'm a little older than most of you. I remember Favre early in his career. They were saying the same things about Favre that they're saying about Mahomes. The exact same thing. Oh, no look passes, throwing the ball. Like the arm strength is just the strongest arm in NFL history. Could do like I hear the same things. So I'm not taking away from Mahomes. But I'm a huge Mahomes dude. I was big on him coming out. And I love everything about the dude. I'm glad he's the $500 million man in the NFL. But I guess my point, going back to the subject we were on, was Green Bay didn't have a revolving door wide receiver. After Donald, really, they've been pretty steady at wide receiver. I mean, between Jordan, started off with Donald Driver, and then they're drafting James, Nelson, Jones, Cobb, Adams. Those are the guys that fall in line. Now, do they have a number two that was drafted high? No, they don't. I mean, Marquez Valdez-Scantling was a 4th round pick. Alan Lazard was an undrafted rookie that they got off the Jacksonville Jaguars practice squad. And according to, and I seen the stat today, which I found amazing, he was the number 1 graded out receiver in the NFL, according to some PFF or some fat nerd or something like that. And Rodgers this season has had a perfect passer rating throwing to him. So the dude's a legit guy. Just because the draft status isn't there, the Saints have offensive weapon after offensive weapon after offensive weapon for Drew Brees. I mean, he's got Alvin Kamara, Ace Murray, obviously Michael Thomas didn't play. The Smith kid, they have a bunch of dudes that hey, you say that, but he actually ran the ball really well last week.
Hey,
he ran the ball real well against Green Bay.
And I say that, and I understand you're a Packers fan, but Latavius Murray, outside of a few games with the Raiders, has never been looked at as, hey, man, they got Latavius Murray. You even said the Smith kid. You don't even know the kid's first name. So it just shows you he's not that impactful of a player. They haven't outside.
No, good.
I'm a Saints fan, and I'm sitting here like, I really got to defend the Saints.
Kalani said, "Who dat you talking about?"
Are you're looking shit up. I'm doing this off my phone.
Hey, Richie. He sits here and he names off 20 Packers, and I get it. Joe's a fan of the Packers, but he names 20 Packers, and he acts like they were all a bunch of scrub bums. Oh, those guys weren't any good. Then he sits here and makes it seem like Drew Brees has had Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer on his damn squad. Come on, Joe.
You're talking about Drew Brees hasn't had weapons in his career?
I never said he hasn't had weapons, but you just said Drew Brees has had weapon after weapon after weapon when that's not the case. He hasn't had. He's had one weapon, but he hasn't had weapon after weapon after weapon. I thought of Jimmy Graham before Michael Thomas showed up.
Bro, a couple years ago, he had Arrigo, Kamara, Michael Thomas.
Kamara and Thomas.
Jimmy Graham.
No, Jimmy Graham was there, but remember, Jimmy left for a few seasons because he was in Seattle and with you guys.
He had Colston before
They traded him. They traded him. Yeah, they traded
him for they traded him for Max Unger.
Marcus Colston, Reggie Bush.
Reggie
in that offense was legit. I mean, he went down. Reggie went to Miami. He ran for over 1,200 yards.
You did not. Okay, but that was in Miami. That wasn't New Orleans. I love Reggie Bush. That is my favorite college football player. But don't.
No, but he's still what he. It
didn't work out. It did not.
What Reggie brought to the table was a big play. Kalani, you know as a coach, if you have a guy that you're scheming against, the threat of a big play is there in the ball, whether it's on the ground, whether it's in the air, whether it's at a kick or a punt. The ball is in his hands. That's what Reggie brought to the table, no matter what.
Yeah, but guess what?
Wherever he went, from New Orleans to Detroit.
That's very true. But at the same time, you got to have the production to back up you being put in as, oh, well, this guy's always had weapons. Like, oh, yeah, this guy's always had weapons. It can't just be that I was a threat. It has to be, no, he had weapons and they produced. That's like saying, well, Brady's never really had real good weapons. Brady has never had receivers outside of Moss and Gronk who were considered elite wide receivers. But Wes Welker and Julian Edelman production show that, we may not call them top 5 wide receivers, but they're up there production-wise. That's what Drew Brees has not had a plethora of guys like that. I'll tell you what, Aaron Rodgers has had better wide receivers through his career than Drew Brees has always had.
Well, let's break that down for me. What has any wide receiver done when they left Green Bay? I mean, Jordy Nelson leaves, goes to the Raiders, and was a flop. James Jones went to the Raiders, went to the Giants, to come back because he wasn't producing. Randall Cobb's on his 3rd team in 2 years. Greg Jennings washed out. He went to Minnesota and Miami and washed out. So were those guys actually elite wide receivers, or did Rodgers make the bet?
Well, they were elite wide receivers.
Or did the offense of McCarthy had him in make it better?
Well, it's a combination of all three, man. It all goes hand in hand. The system that you're in, the players that are around you, and what you do. Hey, Troy Aikman wasn't shit until Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin came. Emmitt Smith wasn't Emmitt Smith when he left Dallas. It's a combination of everything put together that makes you good. But you name all those guys, and who do we name for Drew? Colston, Thomas, and it's just wide receiver.
Led the league receiving multiple at least once. Thomas, Sanders. Sanders is there.
Sanders who?
No, he's there now. I'm talking about Sanders is there now.
Yeah, and
Emmanuel Sanders is there now.
Yeah, but he ain't doing nothing. It's only 3 games. Yes, for sure.
It's three games.
But what I'm saying is, it's 3 games, but you can't sit here and be like, well, it's only 3 games. He ain't did nothing. That's on Drew Brees. And then look at the rest of it. No, what have you done for us? What are you doing for us is what we're talking about.
Ethan, what are you doing for me right now?
Let's look at it.
I'm saying, man.
Okay. Then look at it this way. Since people want to bitch about the Raiders defense, right? He couldn't beat the Raiders defense. He couldn't throw over the top of the Raiders defense with a poor secondary, correct? His guys couldn't get open, right? He couldn't throw them open, right?
They also couldn't get open. That was also part of it as well. They also couldn't get open. It was a home opener on Monday Night Football, brand new stadium. The energy was electric. I dare say that the Las Vegas Raiders, despite the loss, they're going to be a tougher team week to week than what we saw last year. They may not, that doesn't mean that they're going to get all these wins, but I do feel that there are going to be more games that they are in more throughout consistently, win, lose, or draw, than last year where it felt like after the first half, they're just going to get blown out. I do feel that way.
That got nothing to do with Drew Brees not being able to beat them, though. I mean, Drew Brees is at home. The knock on Drew Brees is the Saints can't play on grass. When you're at home in your stadium, you're in your beds throughout the week.
No, they were
around and you can't.
Remember? They were out here for that one.
They what?
They were
not for the Green Bay game. I
know, but they okay. So
I understand. I understand.
It was a shootout to the last second. We got more yards than Aaron Rodgers, and we lost by one touchdown. Like you guys didn't blow us out. We lost by one touchdown. It could have gone either way. And my corner got another pass interference call on him that really put us in a jam. So it was a good game. But let's not make it more than what it is.
Hold on. I'm listening.
Going at
it. Keep talking.
It was two. I can't. It was two of the best. I think your screen is blank. That's why I didn't know if you were still here or not. It was two of the best quarterbacks that ever went at it. It was a one touchdown game. And they both for 300 yards. So, I mean, I'm not seeing the logic in saying a guy who threw for more yards than my quarterback in a one touchdown loss doesn't have it anymore. I just, especially when he don't got his number one weapon.
But it really was it really a one touchdown loss? They scored 30 seconds left.
37-30. I mean, I know I went to public school in the inner city, Joe, but 37 minus 30, really, leave the 7, that's one touchdown.
No, you're missing the point, Ronnie. You're missing the point. It's not about 37-30. What I'm saying is they went down, and Green Bay's playing prevent. They're you know what they're playing cover 4, keep everything to the inside. So they can't stop the clock. That's exactly what they did. They're giving up yardage. They're giving up 40 yards in passing on that drive at least, and then they kicked it. Like the game was after that, it was like they almost conceded because they're not going to get the onside kick. So,
what happens if they would got the onside kick?
Passing yard.
Yeah, but what happens? What happens if the same thing happens to the Falcons and we get the onside kick and then they go ahead and score? Like if the same thing happens with the Falcons and the Cowboys and we get it, then it's you know what I'm saying? So it's yeah, you guys are playing prevent, but if we get the onside kick and we score again, it's a tie ball game. So
and if Devontae Adams wanted to go, he would have played. I mean, like if
Michael Thomas didn't roll the tank, he would have been in the game too. That's a funny still right there.
I don't know how to screen share. I know I was trying to do it too.
I got him.
I hope somebody got that. That's all I care about.
I got him.
That's hysterical. That is too funny.
No, but you know what? I see Joe's thing there. It does seem like it's jumping in and out. But we'll see throughout the season how it goes about. But, you know, you also got, you know, you have to take into account that injuries are part of the game. But if other guys aren't stepping up and doing their job, it's going to take away from what one can do. You know, if Adam Jones if Jones doesn't do his thing as a running back, then maybe you start seeing, instead of a 50-50 split, 60-40, 70-30. But the fact that he's out there balling out of his mind, it makes it easier to call it 50-50 because you can trust your running game. So it all goes hand in hand. Unfortunately, the Saints guys aren't stepping up in the passing game.
I think what Joe was getting at earlier, and something I saw a little bit of and saw some of with Peyton his last year, is just being able to drive the ball deep. I think that's the biggest thing we're starting to see is Drew on the back nine of his career. Not being able to push the ball as far. But like you said, we'll see. When Michael Thomas gets back, if he starts chucking the ball down the field and he's making those deep plays, then maybe we're not having this conversation. But, I mean, Thomas was there the first week. We got to see. It's only week 3.
We do got to see. It's early, and we'll see how it goes. Listen,
every wasn't a deep one.
We'll see.
What was that, Joe?
Oh, that's why I'm arguing with him, because I think I guess that's why I'm arguing. That's why the argument is this, because at the end of the day, not every ball is a deep ball to Michael Thomas. I mean, the guy led the league in receptions for a reason, and a lot of them aren't just deep balls. And I forgot that Kalani's a Saints fan, so that's what the argument. I'm just basing off what I've seen of logic. I mean, if I'm talking, I'm not getting emotional.
I'm a sports fan too.
Shit.
You know, I'm allowed to talk.
I'm emotional about it. It is what it is. Like at the end of the day, my team.
I'm allowed to talk about other things, Joe. I mean, I'm cool too. I didn't get emotional about it. I'm just saying I'm allowed to talk about other teams. I'm a sports fan as well, so it's okay. And you know what? He's not a threat on all of them, but he also opens up possibilities for everyone else because of the attention he draws. You know, so having your number one guy out there helps everyone else also get the exposure and get better matchups as well. So yeah,
and that would have helped. And that would have helped Green Bay having Devontae Adams, since Devontae Adams has the coldest releases in the NFL. So I mean,
but it goes,
would have been. So I mean, look, the bottom line.
Now Adams out there, the other guys are stepping up for Green Bay, when the other guys for the Saints haven't stepped up. Yeah, but if these guys are stepping up and these guys aren't stepping up,
that's coaching. Then that ain't my problem.
I mean, it's coaching, but it's also a matter of, hey, are these guys good enough to step up? Some guys don't. You're not blaming Sean Payton. You're blaming Drew Brees. This whole thing was you blaming Drew Brees on not being able to throw the ball. Right now, there's no real evidence that he can't throw the deep ball.
I'm crying.
I think there's 2 games worth of evidence that he can't drive the ball deep, but
I think there's 2 games of him not having the team step up, showing that they're not able to get up and deep.
And maybe some of the players are pissed off about his stance on what's happening socially as well. So like basically, like, fuck it,
I can almost promise you none of those players. I can almost promise you none of those players are thinking that during the game. I can almost promise you that not one player is thinking, I'm not going to run this route hard because of what he said. I'm not going to catch this pass because of what he said. I'm not going to get open. Or I could promise you that's not on their mind.
No, I'm not talking about that.
Maybe an offensive lineman letting a defensive end come by.
I can promise you
the wide receivers.
I can promise you that's not happening either. Granted, they probably didn't like it, but I promise you that's not going on. I can promise you that's not the reason this isn't happening.
I know.
This ain't the movies, Joe.
For a fact that happened with another organization just a couple years ago.
This ain't the movies, Joe. This ain't Any Given Sunday when they get checked. You see the guys tapping each other up. It's not the movies.
It's not. Nope.
Yeah, they don't do that kind of stuff.
Nope.
They don't do that kind of
I
stuff.
know for a fact that happened a couple years ago. No, for a fact with the NFL team.
No, I know for a fact. It probably didn't happen. But they use that as a scapegoat. It's simply like, Joe, you know this too, being around. A lot of times you use the easy way out as a scapegoat to take away from what really happened. Oh, it was this. It was that. Just like, hold on. In all seriousness,
I'm not.
Before, what's the narrative? We're seeing all these injuries because of no training camp. And there was no preseason. That's why there's so many injuries. When every year there's a plethora of injuries happening every single year. But what's the easy excuse this year? COVID-19 and no training camp. Even though every year we have injuries, it's the same reason for all this other nonsense. Because if that doesn't happen, let's say he doesn't say that and they're still playing shitty, what's the excuse then? It's a whole bunch of teams out there who play shitty who didn't have a quarterback say what Drew Brees said. So what's their excuses?
I mean, the Jets don't have that excuse. I mean, they're playing great, man. They don't have any of those problems.
Fucking Richie
all night, bro. All night.
We didn't say that.
I know. Before we get out of here, all I'm saying is, I know for a fact that Green Bay used that, Smith used that, and had what he said printed out and put on shirts for the entire team that they then was up in the locker room and used in meetings. That's been reported by their beat writers. I can also tell you that in an NFL game 3 years ago, the offensive linemen made an effort. They were blocking, but it wasn't as hard as they normally would for their quarterback. And the team that did that got embarrassed on a nationally televised game coming off a playoff season. I can also tell you that, yeah, I agree
that line sucked.
That in games going out there thinking I'm going to drop this ball. Could be I'm not going to for this ball. I'm not going to, if this ball's thrown in a tight window and I know I'm going to get hit, I'm going to pull up and make a business decision because I'm not going to risk myself for this dude who doesn't believe in what's going on in the same beliefs as me. I can tell you that stuff does happen.
Because we've never had any wide receiver ever to get alligator arms before. We've never had that before. Right?
Better sports.
We've never had alligator arms before from a wide receiver. We've never had a bad offensive line on a team that got looked the year before. We never had that before. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I get you. I get you.
That's not my point. Kalani don't.
Hey, and all those guys that run that playoff team that didn't do good on the offensive line, as you said before,
I'm just being real.
Like I said, that team. Because if I recall, only one or two of them are still actively playing. The rest of them, I'm saying, a wide receiver that doesn't want to catch a big ball, that doesn't want to catch the ball over the middle in a tight window. Yeah, we've never heard that happen before with any wide receiver in the history of the league. That offensive line that didn't block really good on national television in the Capitol for their quarterback. Okay, outside of two guys on that line, how many of them continue to have successful careers after that team or after that particular game or season? You can go down the list and make the same excuses you did when you said, hey, of all those wide receivers, what did they do when they left Green Bay? Well, what did all those guys do when they left those teams? It's easy to use. Randy
Why is it an excuse when those things happen, but when Drew Brees can't drive the ball, you're making why he can't? Dude, like,
his guys aren't making the plays down the field.
Both ways with that. Drew Brees
his guys aren't making the plays down the field. That's
my boy can't drive the ball anymore. That's all it is.
His guys aren't making the plays anymore. That's what we're seeing. In 3 games, we have seen that his guys are not making the plays down the field. Look, as the season goes on, if this becomes like a more of a thing, I'm more than happy to jump on your side, Joe, and be like, yeah, Joe was right, that it's just not there anymore. But right now, through 3 games without your number one wide receiver, there's very little evidence to suggest he doesn't have it anymore. His guys aren't making the plays that they were making a year ago or on other teams. Emmanuel Sanders is not the same wide receiver he was last season for another team. Joe broke up, man. I don't know
if about arm strength. Tape don't lie.
Yeah, but tape also shows that his guys aren't getting down there to show off the arm strength.
I'm gonna get out of here because I know it's late.
Yeah, I got to get off as well. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
So I win another debate again. I win another debate against Joe as usual. That's fine.
Dodgers sweep. Packers win. Lakers in the finals. Angels fire their GM. Yankee win. Oh, and
the Aces.
I'm 3-0 in our fantasy league.
the Las Vegas Aces are in the WNBA finals. Let's go Vegas. Let's go.
Seattle Storm.
That's gonna be a good one. Hey, Derek Hamby.
We need to screenshot that face. That's
that's one where he looks flustered and very confused.
All right, I'm gonna end it.
All right, guys.
2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah, a little bit later than we were supposed to. All right, now.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining me, Kalani, and Joe Arrigo on another episode of FSM After Dark. We will most likely be back again tomorrow. Thank you, and everybody have a wonderful evening.